So really, what are we asking our guests? And think through the hotel business, the hospitality business in general. Did we ever have to do that in the past? And if not, why are we asking our guests to do that?
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It podcast. My name is Derek Felch, and I'm one of 7 hosts on our podcast that bring you conversations 3 times a week on a variety of topics around real estate, business, and personal motivation. Our goal with this podcast is to help you succeed in whatever target you're aiming at. We are all committed to finding the best and brightest people who aren't just talking about doing big things, but are actually taking the steps to achieve their dreams and want to help others along the way. I'd ask if you find value in any of our content, would you mind sharing it with someone else today? It would help us expand our reach to see others go and achieve great things. Today's no different. I'm joined today by Zee Langford from Bloomington, Illinois. Zee is a husband, he's a father, and he's the CEO of Creekwood Vacations, which is a property management company focused on short-term rentals and boutique hotels. And in today's episode, we talk about operating short-term rentals. We talk about how to build a network, how to find good people, and we talk about a lot of helpful resources along your journey. If you or someone you know are considering purchasing a short-term rental, maybe you already have one, maybe you have a bunch of them, I am certain you're going to find value in what Zee has to share with us today. So with that, let's chat with Zee. All right, well, welcome, Zee Langford. I appreciate you being on this podcast, so thanks for joining me, and let us know a little bit about you. What would you like us to know about you?
Yeah, so I'm Zee Langford. As you heard in my bio, I'm CEO of Creekwood Vacations. We are a short-term rental management company. We also acquire properties ourselves, as well as partner with other individuals to acquire those properties. Just broke into the boutique hotel space. We have one asset under management partnership up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and then another resort in Lake Ozarks, Missouri. Have a Hocking Hills, Ohio. I guess from when we're recording this to when it's posted, we'll probably be closed on that property as well. So scaling very rapidly in the STR space.
That's awesome. So are you mainly, are you more along resort and boutique hotel or like individual short-term rental units? Like what do you have mainly?
Yeah, so we do both. It just really depends on the asset. We prefer people. We would rather do business with people than properties. That's one of our core values, is people first always. So really it depends on the investor, the client, who are we working with, and how can we align ourselves and work really well with them.
That's great. How long ago did you get started on all this?
Yeah, so March of 2021, my brother-in-law acquired the first condo. That condo turned into 2 condos, which turned into 3 condos in a matter of about 30 to 45 days. And so we went from having 0 real estate experience to needing a lot of real estate experience in a very short amount of time. So from there, I jumped into a few masterminds, B&B Bootcamp, Michael and Katrina, and then bounced over to STR Secrets with Michael Sjogren. And then from there, we jumped over to James Murphy as we started to scale our business in early 2022. We jumped over to James Murphy because we decided we really wanted to scale this up and make it a really solid company, but also make sure we have the bandwidth to support all of our clients.
Sure. So why short-term rentals? What made you just decide in 2021, hey, let's get a short-term rental with no experience, no idea what you're doing?
Yeah, I that was not me. That was all my brother-in-law. He loves visiting Lake of the Ozarks. And so in Missouri, great lake destination. And he bought a condo down there. Kind of thought we were going to partner on it, figure out a way to, own properties together and do things like that. We just ended up, separating out the business. Everybody owns their own assets, and we can still collectively manage them under one roof. And so we interviewed a few management companies down there. Didn't really like what we were finding. Just decided let's figure it out ourselves and jumped in. I would say feet first, but it was definitely like belly flop first. had a lot of fails right out of the gate. Figured out very quickly that we needed coaching, jumped into some coaching, and really the rest is history. It just met the right people at the right time, got into the right masterminds, and was able to scale pretty quickly and efficiently.
Wow, well, that's great. So Zee, it's an interesting time in the short-term rental market because I've been, as I mentioned in previous shows, I come from a very hospitality background. I've worked in hotels almost all of my adult life. I've observed short-term rentals for a long time. When it first I think when Airbnb rolled onto the scene, VRBO has been around a long time. But it seems like the market got super hot. People got really excited about it. Suddenly, everyone was searching for their short-term rental dreams. And now the market's kind of, in my viewpoint, shifting a bit. What are your thoughts on the short-term rental market for someone who's maybe looking at, is it too late? Did I miss the boat? Should I get into it? What are your thoughts on the market?
It really just depends on what market. So we are specifically focusing on Midwest markets. We have the opinion. There's some data behind this, but it's really an assumption and opinion that the Midwest typically gets hit less when we walk into a recession. If you talk through the middle class family in the Midwest, we're always going to take our families on vacation, at least even if it's just to a lake for the weekend. There's very rarely, at least growing up, even during recessions, during downtimes, that we didn't go someplace in the summer, even if it was for a weekend. My family, my dad, my mom always did a great job of making sure us kids had at least a small experience, even without a lot of money. So that's why we've targeted the Midwest. We've targeted Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, targeted Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, really targeting these Midwest markets that shouldn't be affected as much as we go to a downturn. In addition to that, there has been quite a few markets that have just been hit by people jumping on the trend. There are people that bought wrong, that didn't analyze right, that are hurting now. A lot of that comes to underwriting. Did you underwrite the property properly? Did you stress test the property? Did you make sure that, hey, if we don't have the numbers that we saw in 2020 and 2021, are we still going to be okay if we take a 25% hit? I think that's really important when you're underwriting deals to really see what can I still afford if this thing starts to crash. And the last thing that we do when we underwrite is we always try to underwrite based on turning it back into a long-term rental. So if I can turn this back into a long-term rental and at least pay the mortgage with just a little bit of cash flow every single month, $100, $200 a month, it's still a great asset because I have multiple exit strategies.
Are you seeing a similar trend for bookings? Is there anything this spring as you're starting to look out into 2023 that concerns you, or are you feeling like your markets are going to do okay?
I still think like our markets are going to do okay. There has been a slight downtrend, specifically walking through, November, December. We started to see a downtrend. We normally see that downtrend in the STR market historically, specifically in the markets that we're in. January, February has actually been a pretty decent month for us. We only been doing this for, I say only, this is our third season that we're walking into. So really we have the historical data from other operators, but us personally, our operations, we don't have historical data back to there. We're still outpacing in most of our markets, the market. That's one of our KPIs that we look at every single month is our occupancy versus the market occupancy. Are we beating the market? Same thing with an ADR and a revenue standpoint. Where are we competing compared to the market?
Right. ADR is average daily rate, which is important to know for your property. What's the total revenue divided by the number of days in that month gives you your average rate. Well, that's good. And then how does that transition to boutique hotels? What does that mean? What is that going to look like for you in managing those?
Yeah, so our boutique hotel concept is to have off-site or very limited on-site employees, thus reducing our costs. We can take that short-term rental, remote check-in that COVID really pushed out on us. So there's some people that still want the human touch, the human interaction. So that's one of the things that we're going to lightly balance, and we've budgeted accordingly for inside of our boutique hotels. But really just looking at how can we reduce costs, operate more effectively, but still give a great guest experience from a clean, refurbished property. So the properties we're targeting are either run-down hotels, haven't been operated effectively. The previous one that we purchased was 50. They had owned the property for I think around 50 years. So they were just tired. They're older, they're ready to retire. I know they sold that property and turned around and bought something down in Florida that they can enjoy for themselves. So that's really where we're after, is something that hasn't been ran effectively but still has good bones, good structure, something that we can come in and make clean and really build back up that guest experience, the place a family can come, but still make it affordable as well.
That's interesting. And is that boutique hotel, is that something you're just starting? Is it been operating under you management for a while, or?
Yeah, so both of them that we're doing are currently under renovations.
Okay.
So we will be launching in the next. We're recording this in the end of February. We'll be launching both of those over the next 90 days.
Okay. And how many rooms are they, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we'll just say 30-ish on both. It's going to depend on, we're combining some rooms in different styles like that.
Sure. And do you think you're going to operate them? Because I looked at a little motel, similar situation in the Branson area that I was really excited about. And then the owners, they weren't tired yet. They loved it. It was their baby. They're great people. And they said they needed about 5 more years after they really thought about it. So, but I wondered, are you going to staff it? Like, what will staffing look like from a boutique hotel? Because I love the idea of operating as a short-term rental. I think the consumer market is moving that way, and people aren't expecting as much staff interaction overall. But what does that staffing look like for you guys? Do you think?
So staffing, we have 2 different scenarios that we're going to be working on. Our Wisconsin scenario is going to be a completely unstaffed, outside of our cleaners that are going to be on site. However, we have multiple individuals that will work on a 1099 basis that will be on call and be within 20 minutes of the property. So therefore, if something goes wrong, if a guest does need something, we can still get somebody on site rather quickly. We still have, from a virtual standpoint, a 24/7 guest service. You can call in still. You'll get somebody 24/7s. We have then cameras all across the property, not going into any private spaces, but where we can always view what's going on at the property at all times. So that's the Wisconsin one. In Missouri, there will be a little bit of seasonal help, somebody on site during the peak season, May, June, July, August, when our hotel will be much more full. But off season, we'll be able to manage that very similar to what we do in Wisconsin.
That's awesome. So I'm curious too. I think in the short-term rental market, when people are diving in and maybe exploring, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do it? There comes this. There's kind of 2 camps on the management of them. There was a big push by some really good people, smart people, and they make a lot of sense, to self-manage. Self-manage your short-term rentals from a distance. You can use apps. You can use all kinds of technology. What are your thoughts? I mean, should someone self-manage? Is it worth what makes it good to self-manage or to use a management company? What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, you run a management company, so you might be a bit biased, but what do you think?
No, I think it depends on personal preference. Do you want to be hands-off? Do you want to have interaction with a property manager once a month? Maybe once every couple weeks if you just need to check in on the property? Do you want to be completely hands-off? Some of our investors are completely hands-off. We have quarterly calls. Jump on a call once a quarter and just talk them through, hey, here's how you're performing. They have monthly reports that go out, but an actual phone call where we're talking once a quarter. Is there anything you want us to change from an operational standpoint? Is there anything you want to improve in the property? Those are the questions we're having. From a self-management side, we jumped out. We self-managed our first units before we created a management company. So, yeah, it's possible. It's a little bit more difficult than some people say. Yes, you can automate probably 75 to 85% of your business, but when a guest gets locked out at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're calling you, you're going to be answering the phone. So they're going to be locked out. Those are kind of your options. One of our first, I think, 5 guests in our unit just purchased the unit, got it up and running. They were actually the night of their wedding, so Saturday night, 11 o'clock, they call and the shower won't work. Well, what the heck am I going to do? I live 6 hours away. I have it. This is my 5th guest. I don't have a boots on the ground list. I don't have a huge vendor list that I can call. So I'm calling every plumbing company that I can find on Google. And of course, now it's midnight. They literally just got there from their wedding. I feel terrible that I ruined their stay. We got super lucky because like I said in the beginning, my brother-in-law bought multiple units to kind of launch this, and we had a unit that we didn't quite have ready yet that we were getting ready to launch. And I just called the guest and I say, hey, listen, like the plumber's not going to be able to get this fixed tonight. I have another unit. It's not 100% guest ready, but there's sheets on the beds, there's towels in the cupboards. It's ready to go. It just might still be a little dirty. It hadn't had its final clean yet. They were super appreciative that we were able to shift them over to that, but it's still one of those things, like from a self-management perspective, you have to be dedicated enough to make sure that you're gonna be there for those people in those times. I see it all of the time online where a guest didn't respond or a host didn't respond at 11 o'clock at night when we needed something. Can you really blame them on that? Yes, no, maybe. This really is a full-time job if you get there. Yes, you can automate most of it, but there's still going to be those rare instances where you're going to have to take care of your guest at odd hours or inconvenient times for yourself.
Just in my mind's eye, I picture someone pausing the podcast right here, turning their significant other and being like, yeah, we're not buying a short-term rental, thanks. But no, I agree. I think it's always struck me interesting that in any other area of real estate, we push who, not how. And then in short-term rentals, we tend to be like, well, you can do it yourself. It'd be good. And again, I think it can be done, but it is. I mean, we have a condo in North Carolina, and we're in Kansas, so it is a long ways away when there's a problem, and we've had problems. And so, yeah, it is. I think sometimes people need to understand or appreciate it is much different than a long-term rental in that you are in the customer service business. You're in the guest service business. And guests on vacation can be challenging at times.
And for anybody looking to jump into property management or self-management at all, you have to understand that this is hospitality, that we are in the hospitality business, even if it's a short-term rental. Yes, it's your house, but you're there to serve your guests. And if you're putting your guests first, and you're not going to not encounter bad guests because they are out there. You can do some steps to help screen for them. However, you're gonna get them in there. There's no way around it. You're going to have a bad guest at some point. But how can we still put our best foot forward, make sure that our guests are respectful to us and we're respectful to them, but we're creating a great guest experience and really pushing hospitality. I have to really push that with our investors that are coming from long-term rentals, that this is a different game. This is completely opposite from long-term rentals. You can't just, put lipstick on a pig on a short-term rental. You really have to make this a great guest experience from beginning to end.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think in the gold rush of the short-term rentals in the last 2 years, people really did jump in, and they do make a lot of money, and they've made a ton of money in the last couple of years for a lot of markets. But it's a lot of work dealing with people, and people have high expectations. They're on their one vacation a year. They've saved money for it. They want everything to be right. And yeah, I think that's good advice. What have you learned if I'm someone new, kind of thinking maybe, do I want to do a short-term rental? I really don't want to get called 11 o'clock at night. What have you learned now that you kind of wish you had known when you started?
Make sure before you enter a market that you have your list of people. Who are you going to call when you need them? What plumbers are you going to use? What cleaners are you going to use? Realtors are great at recommending these people, but don't just have one. I wish I would have known that at the beginning. Don't have one cleaner. Have 3, or have a cleaning company, because it's only a matter of time before that cleaner that has been rock star, killing it on your units, is sick. And then what are you going to do? You have a guest coming in, and you're not able to get somebody in there. Same thing with that scenario with the married couple in our unit the first time. I didn't have a list of plumbers. Had I had a list of plumbers, they might have been able to get in there and get it done that night.
Yeah, that's good. Cleaners are, man, those are the most important. Just like in a hotel, the housekeeping is the hardest job in a hotel, often the least respected, but man, they are the heroes in any business. And yeah, cleaners are, and I think it's just a matter of process. You just assume you're going to turn over your cleaners at some point. They get too busy and they get spread too thin, or they quit, disappear, or they just decide they don't want to do it anymore. So yeah, That's good. What do you think makes a good short-term rental? What separates a good short-term rental or maybe a great short-term rental from an average short-term rental?
Amenities and comfort. Did you buy a bed off of Facebook Marketplace, or did you make sure that the bed was comfortable? Did you order the cheapest sheets you could find, or did you make sure you at least had a middle level sheet where nobody's going to complain, nobody's going to be like, oh my gosh, these are the best sheets in the world. It's a little too expensive when we're talking about an ROI from a property. So really comfort and amenities. How easy is your check-in and check-out process? Are you asking your guests to do 328 things before they leave, or are you simply requesting? All of our messages now are, hey, it's a great help to our cleaning staff if you would start a load of dishes or start a load of towels before you leave. It's not really, I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it too, where it's, I want you to strip the beds and take the trash out and make sure every cup is put back in the exact place and the remote's turned here and the heat's turned down to here. So really, what are we asking our guests? And think through the hotel business, the hospitality business in general. Did we ever have to do that in the past? And if not, why are we asking our guests to do that? So yeah, amenities and comfort and just the ease of in and out for your guests.
Yeah, I do. Man, I think the cleaning fees are really something that the consumer is going to keep pushing back on, because you don't check into a hotel. Yes, there's a lot of hotels with ridiculous fees. We keep finding ways to add, but no one has come up with the cleaning fee yet. Like, oh, thanks for staying with us. Your room was $200, and there's an $85 cleaning fee. And so, yeah. And would you clean your room before you leave? So, yeah, I think that's good. I feel like it's shifting a little, like people are starting to catch on, but I think, yeah, I'd agree with that. What tools have you found helpful to manage? Like, let's say someone's like, I'm not paying Zee any money to manage my short-term rental. What tools have you found, or would you recommend to an owner operator to use that have worked well for you guys?
Yeah, a PMS would be number one, so a property management system. We currently use Guesty. We've also dabbled with Hospitable. They all have their pros and cons. Definitely do some research, talk to some people in the business. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. It really just depends on what is most important to you. Some of them do some things great, some of them don't do some things great, but that space is really new, and it's going to continue to improve. I've already seen a huge improvement over the 2 years that we've been really focused on this industry, and it's just going to continue to improve. So PMS number one, property management system. Then inside of that property management system, make sure you're getting some message stacks and automations on your messages. You know, when a guest books the property, thanks for booking with us. When a guest, 24 hours before, hey, we just want to make sure you have all the instructions to get into the property. Let us know if you have any questions in there. And then the number two thing that you need to have is besides a smart lock, definitely have a smart lock. Outside of your smart lock, make sure your smart lock has a key, and make sure that key is on a lockbox, so when the smart lock fails, there's still a way for the guest to get in. So those are really big. And then the last big thing that you have to have if you're going to be in short-term rentals is some sort of pricing management tool or dynamic pricing tool. We use Price Labs. We've played with Wheelhouse as well. Inside, now that we're launching some hotels, we're working with some more hotel data and hotel pricing tools versus your typical STR tools, experimenting with some of those, doing some A/B testing across multiple of our platform. But yeah, those are the big ones, PMS and some sort of pricing tool. I have a phenomenal example of this. First unit, first year, we had a pricing tool. Maybe I set it up like maybe 3 days before this happens. 4th of July weekend, we had this unit that had bookings that came with it. So there's bookings that we had to honor. Our booking was for 4th of July weekend, 4 nights, $99 a night. 1 bedroom, 1 bath. We're talking 2021, Lake of the Ozarks. Everybody wants to be down there. There's not a place left to book, and we're a week out. That person cancels. We can talk about cancellation policies later. I didn't know how to do cancellation policies.
Totally.
But that person cancels. Within 2 hours, it rebooked for $499 a night. Times 4 nights. So we made $1,600 and paid for our pricing tool for the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I don't even know how long that pricing tool is paid for now, off of that one booking. And that was the power of the pricing tool, knowing there's like maybe 5 units that you can book this weekend out of the 5,000 units that are in this market right now. And so it just took our price from this point to the maximum amount. And at the time, I put $499 in, thinking nobody would ever pay that. And apparently, I should have put it up a couple $100 more.
That's
I don't
right.
know. I didn't want, yeah, but I still want to bring value at the same time. But that is the most extreme example that I could give you. That's not going to happen every day, but it does pay itself off. Well, there's some markets that we don't know things are going on in. We try to stay on top of it. But if you're self-managing, you're not going to know, hey, that concert's going on in this town this weekend, or hey, by the way, there's a high school graduation this weekend, and a bunch of people are coming in from out of town. Thinking through things like that, you probably don't have the capacity to do, but that pricing tool does.
Yeah. No, we use Price Labs, we use Guesty. Like you said, they're especially on the property management system, they're evolving, they're getting better, which is good. But I have found them, and I love the revenue. I mean, the revenue management side is my bread and butter in my life, and it's what I do well. And yeah, I think that is it's underlooked in the hotel business, and it's underlooked definitely in the short-term rental business, because people spend a lot of time picking out colors of the walls and the little frilly pictures and the themes and and they totally misunderstand. The guy who fills up first doesn't usually win. There is a strategy to pricing and length of stay, and I think I could give away that information and a lot of people still would ignore it. So, because it's boring and it's nerdy, and you got to get a spreadsheet, things that nerds like, but other people are like, nah. So, well, cool. What else are you working on? What do you have a specific vision, target, goal you're chasing after, plan? Or are you winging it?
Yes. No, we're not winging it. I'm not allowed to say that anymore. My team gets so mad when I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna wing it. Don't worry about it, guys. Yeah, they get upset with me because we're not winging it anymore. We know what we're doing. We know where we're going. So the biggest thing that we're headed towards right now is properties that we can force appreciate. So yes, we'll still take on a single family home for a client, but it has to be the right person. Like I said earlier, it's got to be the right person and the right property. We're not just going to take on any property. We're really selective in who we work with. But the bigger picture is, how can we force appreciate a property? So single family homes, we're getting there, but currently single family homes are still appraised and evaluated at an appraisal. They're not going to look at your short-term rental business, and a bank's not going to loan yet. They're getting there. There's some DSCR lenders out there that are getting there, but they're not quite there yet on a perspective of, okay, this property is bringing in $100,000 a year at a 10 cap, a capitalization rate. At a 10 cap, it's worth $1 million. They're not looking at that yet, versus in the hotel industry, you can do that. In the multifamily industry, we can do that. And so we're doing some experiments right now with some multifamily syndicators on how can we take STRs, help force appreciate a property on an NOI. So we have an experiment going on right now in Houston with a multifamily syndicator where the STRs are actually then paying premium rent, but everything is owned. Furniture rent's going to the property, so the property then is going to have a better NOI, but then we're just taking a small fee to run that STR. We're doing some back-end management. I'm working with some multifamily syndicator to try to build a model out for multifamily people, to where rather than them having 20 arbitragers, rental arbitrages, where you, for those that might not be aware, is where you lease a property from a landlord or an apartment complex, and then run it as a short-term rental, and you get the profit. So whatever profit there is. There's quite a few multifamily syndicators that are trying to get rid of their arbitrage units, because in some instances they don't pay rent. In some instances they might go under. And if that market starts to lag, or we start walking into a recession, and you've got 15% of your properties are arbitrage, and then they all go out of business, you're really in a problem as a multifamily unit. Specifically with how we're doing some sort of fixed rates versus flexible rate mortgages, and how you're performing. So you just have to be really careful for multifamily. We have that experiment going on right now. Going to see how that turns out. Really trying to work directly with that multifamily syndicator as well as the lenders to really force appreciate that property, to get that NOI as high as possible, to create a velocity of money for investors. Doing the same concept in our hotel spaces. How can we increase that NOI, refinance the property in a couple years, and just think of it as if you're in the single family, fix and flip, or the BRRRR method, we're doing the same concept with hotels. So take a dilapidated unit that's buy it for $2 million, force appreciate it to $5 million, be able to refi that property out, get the investors back their money as quickly as possible. Target is 12 to 24 month refis in all those scenarios. Those are the two big things we're kind of experimenting with and playing with right now. Have a lot of really great capital partners that have come on board that believe in our company, believe in what we're trying to accomplish, and have really stuck their neck out to let us kind of play. I mean, that's really what we're doing. We have a great strategy, we have a great process, we've built the back end machine, but now it's just about executing and making sure everything goes the way we plan it to go.
That's good. So I struggle sometimes with being cynical. So I imagine people listening to this that might have that similar characteristic that they're working on too. It's easy for someone to hear you talk and be like, oh, you know, your parents must have a lot of money. You must it always comes down to money. And if you listen to so many podcast gurus, books, it's like money's never the problem. But how are you paying for these? Like how are you finding money for these properties?
Yeah, right spaces, right individuals, partnering with the right people, but constantly showing up. That is how we're paying for it. How do we consistently show up every single day? How do we make sure that we're touching base with the people that we touch base with? I have a really great network. We've been in multiple masterminds. The real estate space is incredibly small, so you don't mess up if you're jumping into real estate. Make sure if you say you're going to do something, you're going to get it done. But really just having those conversations, making sure that people understand from the perspective of this should work. Here's where we're probably going to land. Here's where we could land from a high-end standpoint. And here's all of the risks involved in this investment. And just being completely transparent. But you've got to get yourself out there. You can't just sit back and wait for money to walk to you. The money's out there. There are plenty of people that are willing to invest in you if you have a proven track record. And there's people that are willing to take a chance on you even if you don't. We don't have any full cycle deals right now. We don't have any of these hotels where it's been, hey, this deal right now has gone full cycle. Look at the returns we made for these investors. I don't have that. The closest thing I have to that is a single family condo that we took, bought it 120, operated it for a year at like $30,000 net and sold it for 160, ended up with around a 45% IRR, and then 1031'd it into a self-storage unit and started dabbling in the self-storage space as well. That's my one full cycle that I have completed in the real estate. So it really just comes down to talking to people, networking with people, and making sure that those individuals really feel safe sending money into your investments, making sure your legal work is correct and your legal protections are there. But yeah, I think it mostly comes down to masterminds and putting yourself in the right room with the right coaches and right mentors. That I just have a shortcut to that answer. If I don't know the answer, I know somebody that does. And that's really vitally important, I think, in the real estate business.
So that brings up let's talk about masterminds, if you don't mind, Zee. Because my first podcast I did was with Tanya Rooney, who's in the short-term rental space up in Minneapolis, and a firecracker of personality. And we talked a little bit on that one. I definitely came from a very cynical view of masterminds and gurus, because I think in any industry there's often more money made in teaching than in doing. And so how do you find, but then I've also noticed there are people who find great value in masterminds, and people who I might say are successful and you would think have achieved what maybe some of us are trying to achieve, who then also say, I'm going to go join this mastermind to learn how to do this. Like, what makes a good mastermind? What brings value? Why do they matter to you?
One, where do you want to go? I'm here. I want to get to here. Who is that person that's already there? And how can I align myself with them or bring value to them? In some instances, that value is joining their mastermind and paying them money. In some instances, that value is just, hey, can I do XYZ for you? Or where are your pain points? How can I help you succeed? In exchange, I would just like access to you every once in a while to ask you questions, but always leading with value. So from a mastermind perspective, what's important is what value can they bring to me, but also what value can I bring to them? I try to look at that all the time as how can I bring value to this mastermind that I'm in as well, not just looking for a monetary transaction. Okay, if I pay you, some masterminds are 10, 15, 20, 25,000. If I'm paying you this much money, but I'm in here for me, not what can I bring to the table, that's really all you're going to get out of it. So I think it's really important from a mastermind perspective, a few different things. One, is that person already performing at where you're at? And there's instances that we've already surpassed some of the masterminds that we've been in. And so then we just exit those masterminds and go find a mastermind that's a little bit bigger, or go find somebody that's a little larger than us. But more importantly than the person that's leading the mastermind or the team that's leading the mastermind is the community in the mastermind. How many people are in there? What kind of success have those people had? Do I have access to those people too? Our Wisconsin deal is with a mastermind member. Demetrius, my COO, was a mastermind member. I'm trying to think where else. We were students in James Murphy's mastermind, and now we're coaching in the U.S. for him. Our team coaches his U.S. side of the mastermind, so that way we're just a little bit more entwined with all the regulations and everything that goes on in the U.S. versus he's over in the U.K. and Dubai operating. But he's at 500 units. We want to be at 500 units. So how do we go chase him? And that's why we've joined his mastermind. So is the person where you're at or where you want to be? I wouldn't be going and getting a mastermind from somebody. I want to buy one short-term rental and they have 3. That probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But also, what kind of success have their students had? And do they have a track record of being a good teacher? Because I think it's really easy to be successful in business and be an awful teacher. So are they a good teacher? Do they bring other students up? Are they in this for the money? Like you said, there's more, in some instances, there's more money in coaching than in their other business. So are they in this for the money, or are they in this to affect change? I think are really important parts. I like to ask this before I join a mastermind. If I have your cell phone number and I have an emergency and I call you at 3 o'clock in the morning, are you going to answer? Some say no. Some say yes. That's not an end-all be-all, but that really tells me where they're going to be when I need them.
That's good. I was going to ask you, how can someone find out if it's going to be a good mastermind or that they're going to meet some of that criteria without paying the money to join? What are some tips to questions to ask, or how do you get those questions answered maybe?
You're almost always going to go through some sort of sales funnel, have a setter call that then puts you on a call with a salesperson, and that salesperson's job is to sell you on the mastermind. Before I ever pull the trigger on a mastermind, I want to talk to other people inside the mastermind. So I'm asking for references and referrals. Hey, can I speak to somebody, or can I have a list of 3 individuals? And I've had people reach out to me very similar to this. Once I'm a member of a mastermind, they'll reach out and just say, hey, what do you think about this mastermind? I'm in Invest Beyond Multifamily with Ash Patel out of Ohio, learning more about commercial real estate. And we just had a conference in Atlanta. We were down there meeting with people. They're getting ready to start, another session of their mastermind. There's people that then went to the conference that are interested in joining the mastermind, now reaching out to us saying, what value did you get? Is it worth this dollar amount? And my answer is always to them is, it was worth the dollar amount to me, because I now have shortcut answers to almost everybody in every different field in real estate across all different realms in all different states. But that's the way that I would go about it, is making sure you're getting references and referrals, because not every mastermind is a great mastermind. You've seen it. There's plenty, and I'm sure if you're looking into masterminds, you've seen it. There's plenty of people out there that are trying to sell something that they have just a little bit of success in. I'd make sure I'm after somebody pretty successful and somebody that's going to be there when I need them, and then that the community's there and that the referrals check out.
That's good. What are you, I'm starting to understand more the more I talk to people and the more I look into it myself. And I'm in a couple of masterminds myself. Not there, I would probably call them more the budget masterminds. But and sometimes you get what you pay for, I will say. But would you say the value of the mastermind is the network that you get access to, much more than somebody sharing an hour-long webinar on how to do something?
Yeah, for sure. Access to the network, but also just because you're in the mastermind doesn't mean you have access to the network. I would say,
Okay.
did you bring value? And that's more important than anything. Yes, most people will help you out once or twice, but if you're always hand out, hand out, hand out versus how can I also help you, you're just going to come across that way. So network is great, but yeah, I think most of the time the leader or leaders of the mastermind really set that tone of value first proposition.
That's good. If somebody wanted to, going back to your management services, if someone wanted to work with you, you mentioned that you have certain criteria, owners you're looking for. What kind of owners, operators are you wanting to work with?
Yeah, so from an operator standpoint, we will partner with other operators. We have multiple times where we've partnered with operators to take down bigger portfolios. That's one of the ways that we've scaled so quickly. So if an operator had a portfolio that they were trying to take down, or a larger boutique hotel and really wanted somebody that had gone full cycle or somebody that had walked through this before, definitely open to a conversation. We're always open to conversations, and even if it's just a, hey, like, here's my phone number, here's my email, like, if you have any questions along the way, regardless of if we partner together or not, like, reach out to me. I'm happy to help out where I can. That's gotten me in a little bit of trouble because now my messages have slowly started to build up where I've got to do like a Friday night couple hour go back through. Did I get to everybody when I was supposed to get to them? Have I executed on everything I was supposed to execute on? From an investor side, we're definitely shifting more towards the multifamily or boutique hotel space. Single family homes, absolutely, we'll still take them on. They have to be in the right market. We're currently in, I think, I'd have to look at my list, but 7 different markets, getting ready to open up in Mexico as well, from a management side. So it really just depends on where the property's located. Are you a good person? Are you a good investor? And do you see me as a human being? And do you see my team as human beings? That's really important to us. There's been a few investors that I think just see us as a company or a part of their asset, a dollar figure. What can I do for you? And they don't see us as humans. And mistakes are going to happen. There's no way around it. Mistakes will happen. How we react to those mistakes, how we can work together, how we can align ourselves to fix those mistakes are really important to us. So really trying to make sure that we have a human connection on the other side, that they're not just in this for the money. Yes, it's an investment. Yes, we need to make money. But at the same time, our company's model is people first. So are you going to put those people first? Are you going to let us put the guests first? In some instances, we've had some owners that have, well, why did you give this guest a $100 refund? Well, they had a really bad check-in process, or hey, they complained about the bed and they complained about this, and these are all things that we asked you to fix, but they didn't quite understand where we were coming from a hospitality standpoint. So making sure from an investor standpoint that you see us as humans as well. We'd love to work with anybody that will at least check that box. Operator side, same thing, making sure that people are going to come first. Yeah, that would be our criteria more than anything.
That's good. What makes you different, Z? Like, why? One of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is the idea of why some people are successful and so many aren't, but lots of people are trying. I was on a call this week with a coach, and it was a group call, and he made this comment that 5% of you listening are going to have a great year. 90% of you listening are going to have average year, and 5% of you are going to suck. And I was like, wow, that's brutally honest and probably true. Like, why do you think you were able, like, what pushed you into trying this versus thinking about it, studying it, joining masterminds to learn more? Like, what would you say to somebody who's like, I don't know if I can do this? Like, he probably had a break. There was probably a lucky break or chance or something. So does that make sense? Is there a question in there somewhere?
oh yeah, it makes sense. I think everybody has opportunities in life. Are you ready to jump when that opportunity presents itself? Is going to be the question. And are you really willing to jump without asking questions and figure it out on the go? That has been the catalyst to our success. Being willing to say yes even if we don't have all the answers. Being willing to make sure that the individual that we're working with knows that, hey, we haven't done this before. We're going to do our best to figure it out. The first time somebody came to me and said, hey, would you manage our properties outside of that? Let me get back to you on that. I'm going to go see if I can figure out a business model that this makes sense. Went and figured it out, came back to them. Yes. The first time somebody brought us a 10-bedroom house, I have no idea how to flip a 10-bedroom house. Let me communicate with my cleaning people. So when the opportunity presents itself, are you ready to say yes, but also have you surrounded yourself with the people to say yes? And the biggest thing I think a lot of people struggle with is self-doubt. I've struggled with it myself. My past failures. I have plenty of failures in the past we could talk about for hours. I've fallen flat on my face in business at least 10 times. Probably going to do it another 10 times before I'm done. Do you have a network or a core group of people? Who are the 5 people you're going to turn to when something goes wrong? When you need help with something, are you going to beat yourself up, or can you just bounce right back? And a lot of that comes from self-talk. And we could talk for hours. We could do a whole other podcast episode on mindset. But mindset is huge. And if you're walking into business, it's really huge. Business is one of the darkest, loneliest places I've ever. It's just dark. It's lonely. Like, there's nobody else here. Specifically, when I was a young business entrepreneur, when I ran into problems, I didn't have a network. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't have somebody to talk to. And so I'm here alone, last line of defense. It's not like when you're at a W-2 job, something goes wrong. Oh, I can kick that up the chain and, ask somebody else for help. Or I can go over here and ask for help. It's line in the sand. This is it. Like, I have to figure this out. So you have to have tough skin, and you have to be confident in yourself. And it's only a matter of time before something negative happens. And so something negative happens. How do you make something positive happen in return?
That's good. Now you are married, correct? Zee? Is that what I read?
I am married.
Yes. Was your spouse on board with all this adventure?
No.
Should we pass on that one? Should we edit that question out?
No. My wife is incredible. She has stood behind me. Oh, we're coming up on our 8th wedding anniversary, and she has stood behind me our entire marriage. She's incredibly supportive. She is an incredible mother. She does a fantastic job with our 3 girls. I couldn't even be shooting this video right now without her. She's got the 3 kids out of the house, so I can shoot this video. So, incredibly supportive spouse. I couldn't imagine doing business without her support. But no, her tolerance for my crazy, visionary, futuristic ventures. I'm sure there's been times where it's just like, well, like why did I marry you? Like, why are you like this? How does your brain work this way? I don't think she knew what she was getting into when we got married, but she knows now. It's been fun. Yeah, no, she's incredible. I couldn't do without her. So yeah, it's just funny because if you asked her, she just would roll her eyes.
And do you do this full time now? Are you full time into this management business?
Yeah, I have an e-commerce company as well that we are keeping operating based on the fact that we want to do some alignment things with it. But we've scaled that one down pretty rapidly over the last year. We have it alive and functioning for some purposes in the business that we're building, specifically for example, a kitchen pack out. Like, this is a standard kitchen box. This is what you need to outfit your STR or your hotel unit. We're going to build that up over the next year to where not only can we service our units when we go to set up a unit, but somebody else could order from us as well. So then we're keeping that e-commerce side alive just for that. But other than that, no, this is full-time real estate, full-time deal acquisition, investor capital raising, talking to investors, and then I have very little to do with the actual day-to-day operations of managing guests, anything like that. We have a fantastic team behind me. Our CEO Demetrius does a great job running our VA team. Grant does a great job just filling in the gaps. He's been a business partner with me for, oh my gosh, it's been probably 5 or 6 years now. So great team behind me that allows my job to be much easier.
That's awesome. That's very good. I'd love to ask you more questions about VAs. Is most of your team VAs then, virtual assistants, or do you have in-house staff?
Yeah. So I think we have 4 stateside now, and then you don't quote me on the number here. We have, I think, 5 or 6 full-time VAs, 2 or 3 interns currently. They're a little scared of me. I think I intimidate them. I don't know if it's the beard, if it's just that I'm not on very many calls. I'm not for sure what it is, but yeah, they're a little intimidated by me, so I don't hear from them very often outside of chat. And when I do jump on a call, our head VA is incredible. Her name's Fatima. She was the greatest, probably the second greatest find of our company, but she does a great job of running our VA team.
How did you find your VAs?
Our first 2 VAs, we used a sourcing company to find them. I can't remember what the name of the company was at the time. I think those first 2 or 3 came from there. And then our head VA, Fatima, now is actually running a placement service for some of our close connections, where we always have interns then inside of our company. So other STR operators that we're close to. For example, Matthew McCall-Stillman up in Michigan, I think, has taken 2 or 3 VAs off of our team and put them on his team. Anybody that really aligns with our processes, is using Guesty, is using Price Labs. They're being trained inside of our company for 3 to 6 months, and then we can either take them from an intern to a full-time VA inside of our company, or we can send them out to somebody else as well.
Man, I could probably talk to you for another hour or 2 and ask you all kinds of questions about that. But let's kind of wrap up here a little bit, because I appreciate your time so much. Anything else I should have asked you that you really is pressing that you want to share with us? Anything that, like, man, I wish you had let me talk about this.
No, if you want to hang out and talk STRs or boutique hotels or commercial real estate in general, hit me up. I'm happy to hang out, talk. Most of the time when I'm not trying to do my 38 item to-do list that's still not done on a Saturday morning. So
I get it. Anything you need, anything you're looking for, anything that if people knew of that you'd love for them to reach out?
Yeah, we're always looking for more investors. I even if we don't have a deal currently fundraising for, if we can have that conversation and really align with what you're trying to accomplish with your investment. See if that's a good fit. Other operators, if there's anybody out there that's trying to operate or trying to scale up, or if there's anybody that wants to sell their STR management business, we started to ponder that as well. Got a great back-end team, so really it's just making sure the boots on the ground is in, and we can start acquiring other companies as well. So, or if you want to hang out in Bloomington, Illinois, or Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, or Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, we probably have some job openings.
That's great. We'll put all your contact information in the show notes. We'll list the masterminds you mentioned and some of the other websites you mentioned. So, Zee, thanks so much. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for being willing to give up some time on a Saturday morning to hang out with me and chat a little bit for the information. So appreciate all of you listening, and hope that if you like it, you'll leave a comment. You'll subscribe, all those things that we all try to say. Remember, there are 3 podcasts every week that come out on the Gentle Art of Crushing It, and we appreciate you very much. Thanks very much.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.